Brother tricked my mom into changing her will. Claimed I was an addict. I proved he was using her money for his gambling debt. He got arrested and disowned. It was a Sunday morning, and I was sitting on the porch with a half-full mug of coffee, watching my kids run around the yard. Louie, our beagle, was trotting along beside them, tail wagging in a perfect, lazy arc. I could have stayed out there for hours, just soaking up the rare peace. But then my phone buzzed on the table beside me. I glanced at the screen. Mom. Mom never called early, not even to chat, so my gut instinct told me something was up. I picked up, a little warily. "Hey, Mom, what's going on?" Her voice was shaky, like she was forcing herself to talk. "Joel. Honey, I need to talk to you about something important." "Is everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep the worry out of my voice. "Joel," she began, pausing as if gathering her thoughts. "It's your brother. Adam. He's concerned. He thinks." "Oh, this is so hard to say." "Concerned? About what?" I shifted on the bench, sitting up straighter. The quiet around me suddenly felt fragile, like it could shatter any second. I'd had a strained relationship with Adam for years, but it was unusual for him to bring Mom into whatever issue he thought we had. Mom cleared her throat. "He's been worried about you, Joel. He told me that you've been having some trouble. He said he's been trying to reach out to you about it, but you've been keeping him at arm's length." "What?" I laughed a little, even though it wasn't funny. "I've barely talked to him in months. And that's his choice, Mom. Not mine." She sighed, a long, heavy sigh that made me feel like I'd just added a ton of weight to her shoulders. "Adam says. Well, he says it's because you don't want him to know you're struggling. He thinks you might be dealing with some kind of addiction." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. "Addiction?" I repeated, my voice catching on the word. "Mom, where would he get an idea like that?"
I don't know, Joel," she stammered, but I could tell she was trying to convince herself of something.
"He says he's seen signs. And you haven't been coming around much lately. You're always busy with work, and it just got me thinking, you know?" "Mom," I said, my voice rising. "I'm a nurse. I work long hours because I have to. I have a mortgage, I've got kids to feed, and last I checked, we weren't all swimming in cash like Adam. That's not an addiction, that's responsibility." "I know, honey, but..." She hesitated. "Adam made it sound like it's something you're hiding, something that's hard for you to admit." "That's because it doesn't exist," I snapped, barely recognizing my own voice. "Do you even hear yourself? He's telling you I'm an addict with zero proof, and you're believing him?" There was silence, and then she muttered, almost to herself, "He sounded so sure, Joel. And he was really emotional about it, saying he's been trying to help you and..." "Help me?" I nearly laughed. "He hasn't even been around, Mom. You're the only one he's been helping these last few years, and it's with your money." There was a pause, then a soft, unsure, "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, wondering how much she already knew but was just refusing to see. "Mom, he's got a gambling problem," I said bluntly. "He's been using your money to pay off his debts. And when he burns through it, he comes up with some excuse to get more." That's a big accusation, Joel." She sounded rattled, but not shocked. There was a hesitancy there, like maybe, just maybe, she'd had her own doubts. "It's not an accusation, Mom. I know he's been doing it. I've heard him on the phone with his bookie, I've seen the credit card bills." "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she whispered. I clenched my fist around my coffee cup. "Because you wouldn't have believed me, you'd have thought I was just jealous, or worse, lying. You've always believed Adam over me, Mom." That's not true, Joel," she said, though her voice was less convincing. "I've never played favorites. I love both of you." "Do you, Mom?" I said, harsher than I intended. "Because every time he screws up, you cover for him. And every time I do something good, you find a way to brush it aside." She sighed, and there was a crack in her voice now, something almost broken. "Joel, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel that way. But Adam's my son too, and he's been through a lot." "And what? I haven't?" I asked, frustration bubbling over. "I've spent years working double shifts so I could help support my own family. Meanwhile, Adam's been..." "What, exactly? Gambling away your money? Lying to you about me?" "He wouldn't lie about something like that," she whispered, as if trying to convince herself. "Yes, he would," I said, voice thick with anger. "He's lying, Mom. You know why? Because he's running out of ways to pay off his debts, and he's desperate. This whole addiction story is just another one of his manipulative games to keep getting money out of you." "Oh, God," she murmured, sounding like she was holding back tears.
I don't know what to think."
"Think about it, Mom. Really think. What makes more sense? Me, who's been working my butt off every day, putting in double shifts at the hospital, coming home exhausted just to take care of my own family, or Adam, who's been bouncing from one crisis to another for years.
I just want to believe the best in both of you, she said softly, as if the words were barely enough to hold up under her doubt.
Yeah? Well, maybe it's time to look at the truth, I replied. The silence on the line stretched on. I could hear my mom breathing, and I imagined her standing there in her kitchen, clutching the phone, trying to process everything I'd just dumped on her. She wasn't used to confrontation. She'd always been the type to bury her head in the sand and hope things worked themselves out. But this was too big to ignore. Finally, she cleared her throat. Joel, honey, I don't know what to believe. He said you're spiraling. That you've been pulling away because you're ashamed. That he's tried to get you into rehab, but you refused. He even showed me a picture. I felt my blood turn cold. A picture? Mom, what picture? He showed me a picture of you, she hesitated, passed out in your car. Said you were using something. I couldn't believe it. Mom, that was probably after a night shift. I'm exhausted most days. And you know what? Adam's always there, somehow, with his phone ready to snap a photo when I look my worst. He said you were on pills, Joel, she continued, voice cracking. He was worried they were affecting your work, your family. He seemed so genuine. Of course he did, I replied, voice rising. Because he's desperate, Mom. He's trying to get you to believe any story he can spin, so he can keep siphoning money off you. You have to see this. She didn't respond for a long time, and I felt the frustration boiling over. Here I was, trying to convince my own mother that I wasn't an addict, that my brother was lying to her, manipulating her. It felt impossible. Every instinct told me she was already too deep into Adam's stories, and I had no way of pulling her back. But then, she surprised me. All right, she said, her voice suddenly clear, almost stern. I'm coming over. Right now. You and Adam, both of you, we're going to sit down and talk this out. I need to hear the truth, face to face. Fine by me, I said, feeling a strange mix of relief and dread. If Adam was going to keep lying, he'd have to do it right to my face. And I was ready for it. 2 hours later, Mom pulled up in her old Buick, and I could see Adam slouched in the passenger seat, looking annoyed. He was wearing one of his usual outfits, a designer jacket with ripped jeans, and sunglasses he didn't take off, even when he got out of the car. Mom, I said, greeting her with a hug as she stepped up to my front porch. She hugged me back tightly, but I could feel the hesitation in her grip. Let's go inside, she said, her voice unsteady. Adam followed behind, jaw set, refusing to look at me. Once we were in the living room, I shut the door, feeling the weight of what was about to go down. Mom sat down on the edge of the couch, clutching her purse as if it were a lifeline. Adam flopped into the armchair across from her, stretching out like he owned the place. I remained standing, leaning against the wall with my arms crossed. All right, Mom started, her voice shaky. I don't know where to begin. I just need both of you to be honest with me. Adam scoffed. I've been nothing but honest, Mom. I've been trying to help Joel for months. But he's too proud to admit he's got a problem. I shot him a glare. Problem? The only problem I have, Adam, is that you're spreading lies about me to Mom. Oh, here we go, Adam sneered, sitting up straighter. Look at you, always the victim. You're working yourself into an early grave, Joel. The pills help, don't they? I've seen you with them. Pills? I nearly laughed. You mean ibuprofen? Maybe some melatonin? The things I take to help with sleep because I've been doing 12-hour shifts? Mom, Adam said, turning to her, eyes wide. This is exactly what I've been dealing with. He's so deep in denial he won't even admit it to himself. Don't do that, I snapped. You're using Mom's fear against her. You've been in debt for years, Adam. She's bailed you out so many times I've lost count. Adam rolled his eyes. I haven't needed Mom's help in ages. I have my own business. I'm doing fine. Fine? I shook my head, disgusted. Mom, I've seen his credit card bills. He's lying. Mom looked between us, her face pale. Adam, she asked, voice barely a whisper, is this true? Adam threw up his hands. Oh, for crying out loud, Mom. Are you seriously going to believe him over me? Your own son? I'm her son, too, I said coldly. And maybe it's time you showed some respect for that. Respect? He laughed bitterly. You don't get it, do you, Joel? Mom's been worried sick about you, about what's happening to you. I'm the one who's been here for her, not you. Oh, you mean while you were asking for money? Or showing her random photos of me looking tired? I was just trying to help, he shot back, but his voice was starting to shake. You weren't helping, Adam, I said, taking a step forward. You were manipulating her. Mom looked down at her hands, eyes glistening with tears.
Adam, I need the truth.
Right now. Are you in debt? Adam hesitated, his face hardening. He opened his mouth, then closed it, as if deciding whether or not to lie. But then he sighed, slumping back into the chair. Okay, yes. I am. But it's under control, Mom. I've got it handled. She looked like she'd just been slapped. You said you were doing fine, that everything was fine. How much do you owe, Adam? He shifted, refusing to meet her gaze. It's not that much. How much? I repeated, crossing my arms tighter. About 50 grand, he muttered, barely audible. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. $50,000? Her voice broke, and I could feel the air thickening with anger, sadness, betrayal. Adam looked at her, desperation creeping into his voice. Mom, please. It's not what it looks like. I got in a little over my head. But I was going to pay it back. With what money? I asked, unable to hide the disgust in my voice.
He glared at me, and for a second, I saw the rage behind his calm facade.
You don't know anything about my life, Joel. Don't act so high and mighty. Oh, I know enough, I shot back. You're trying to cut me out of Mom's life so you can keep using her. That's not true, he yelled, losing his cool completely. Mom raised her hand, silencing both of us. Enough. Just enough. Adam, I have given you so much. I helped you when you were down. But lying to me about your brother, trying to make me believe he was. I don't know how you could do that. I'm sorry, Mom, he mumbled, but I could see the resentment in his eyes. He wasn't sorry. He was just sorry he'd been caught. She shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. You have to leave, Adam. I can't help you anymore. I'll help you get into a program, but after that, you're on your own. He looked at her, shocked. You're serious? After everything, you're going to take his side? It's not about sides, she said softly. It's about the truth. And I've had enough lies. He stood up, shaking his head. Fine. Have it your way. But don't come crying to me when he screws up. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Mom sat there, staring at the closed door. I moved to sit beside her, gently taking her hand. I'm sorry, I whispered. I didn't want it to come to this. She looked at me, her eyes filled with both gratitude and sadness. Thank you, Joel. For being here, for being honest with me. I'm so sorry I doubted you. We sat there in silence, holding each other's hands, the weight of years of mistrust finally lifting. It wasn't the ending I'd wanted, but it was the truth, and maybe that was enough. Adam never came back. A few weeks later, he was arrested for fraud. Turns out, his debts had gotten so out of control that he'd started forging checks in Mom's name. He tried to deny it, but the evidence was all there, plain as day. Mom disowned him after that, her heart broken but resolute. She'd lost one son but, in a way, had finally found another. It wasn't easy. Nothing ever is in a family, especially when betrayal runs this deep. But for the first time in a long time, we were honest with each other. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.